Good evening, beautiful contradiction. Yeah, you, the one who smiles soft so nobody gets scared, and carries a stare that could erase a whole future in one blink if you ever stopped holding back. Let's talk about that. Your smile shows mercy. Your stare shows pure obliteration. You know why that hits so hard? Because it's not just a cool line. It's a diagnosis. You've been living a double life, haven't you? On the surface, you smile, you nod, you say, "It's fine." You shrink your opinions, you lower your volume, you apologize for existing just a little too loud. You become digestible, acceptable, safe. But under that is a stare that's seen too much, survived too much, and is absolutely done with everyone's bullshit. Your stare knows exactly who wasted your time, who lied, who used you, who underestimated you, who got comfortable with the idea that you'd keep forgiving, keep understanding, keep giving second chances like you've got an infinite supply. You don't. See, that smile, that's the part of you that still believes in second chances. That stare, that's the part of you that's ready to wipe entire patterns off the map. And you've been at war with yourself. You feel it, don't you? One part of you, be kind, be patient, be merciful. The other part, if I swallow one more disrespect, one more fake apology, one more, "I didn't mean it," I'm going to snap. Let's clear something up right now. You're not too much. You're not dramatic. You're not overreacting. You are awake. And the world is terrified of a person who is awake and done playing nice. Because your smile, it made you easy to use. Your stare, that's the alarm clock. That's the eviction notice. That's the moment you stop being a background character in your own story and become the one who rewrites the script with permanent ink. You've spent years being merciful to people who wouldn't even give you the bare minimum of respect. Years shrinking your fire so no one feels too warm or too burnt. Years pretending you don't mind when you absolutely do. Look at me. You do mind. It did hurt. They did cross the line. You just got good at smiling through the impact. You smiled to keep the peace. But your stare has already started counting bodies. Not literal bodies. The bodies of your old habits, your fake friendships, your people-pleasing, your self-abandonment. Every time you stare into nothing and zone out, tired down to your bones. That's your soul writing a hit list of everything that needs to go. And deep down, you know this. You are merciful by choice. You're destructive by necessity. Mercy is who you wanted to be. Destruction is who you became after they pushed too far. Let's talk about that smile first. That smile has protected you. That smile got you through conversations you didn't want to be in. That smile turned down fights that weren't worth your time. That smile kept certain people calm, kept certain rooms from exploding, kept certain situations from becoming worse. You used your softness like a shield. And that's not weakness. That's strategy. But here's the problem. You started using that same smile against yourself. You smiled when you wanted to leave. You smiled when you wanted to say no. You smiled when you wanted to scream, "I'm not okay." You smiled while they crossed boundary after boundary after boundary. You became merciful to everyone except yourself. You forgave everyone but you. You understood everyone but you. You gave everyone grace. While you took the pain home and let it eat you alive at 2 a.m. And your stare? Oh, your stare tells the truth. Your mouth keeps trying to hide. Your stare goes cold when someone lies. Your stare pulls back when someone feels fake. Your stare sees patterns now. Oh, that's how you talk when you need something. Oh, that's how you act when there's an audience. Oh, that's how you disappear when I'm the one who needs help. You're not naive anymore. You're not in the dark anymore. That's why your stare feels like obliteration. Because you've stopped giving people the benefit of the doubt they never earned. You've stopped romanticizing their potential and started judging their actions. And once you see clearly, there is no going back. Now listen carefully. The world wants your mercy. It fears your obliteration. Society loves the version of you that smiles, nods, forgives, over-explains, over-apologizes, and carries the weight. It panics at the version of you that looks around and says, "Yeah, I'm not doing this anymore." The moment you stop explaining yourself, you become dangerous. The moment you stop begging to be understood and start making moves regardless of who gets it, you become untouchable. You know that stare in the mirror? When you look at yourself and think, "I'm so tired of being this version of me." That's not self-hate. That's self-recognition. That's the real you staring at the costume you've been wearing. You're not nice, you're kind, and those are not the same thing. Nice is compliance. Nice is silence. Nice is digestible. Kindness? Kindness can say no. Kindness can walk away. Kindness can block. Kindness can cut you off and still wish you healing, just not near them. Your mercy is not a prison. Your mercy should have terms and conditions. You want to be merciful? Beautiful. But your mercy must be earned, not expected. You've had people look at you like, "They'll forgive me. They always do." Really? That's who you want to be? The character they write in their head as eternally available. The safe option. The emotional landfill for everyone else's trash. No. No more. Your smile shows mercy. Your smile says, "I could destroy you, but I choose not to." But your stare says, "Try me again. Run that pattern again. Lie to my face one more time and watch what disappears." Because here's what they don't understand. When you finally snap, you don't throw a tantrum, you don't shout, you don't throw things. You go silent, you go distant, you go cold. You start deleting contacts, chats, photos, shared plans, future fantasies. You don't announce it, you just vanish, and they call you heartless. But where was that energy when you were bleeding out slowly, right in front of them, smiling so they wouldn't feel guilty? Listen, that ruthless side of you, that cold, surgical, "I'm done" energy, that's not evil. That's self-respect, finally getting a turn at the wheel. You're not here just to be merciful. You are here to be selective. Mercy without boundaries is self-destruction in slow motion. You've been patient with people who knew exactly what they were doing. You've been understanding towards people who calculated every move. You've forgiven patterns, not just mistakes, and your soul is tired. That tiredness, that's the joker in you laughing quietly, going, "Look at them. They took your kindness as weakness. They thought your smile meant you were harmless. They forgot you were choosing not to unleash what's behind your eyes." Here's the truth nobody told you as a kid. You are allowed to be terrifying, not violent, not abusive, not cruel. Terrifying in your standards, terrifying in your boundaries, terrifying in your refusal to settle for half love, half truths, half effort. Your stare should make people rethink how they behave around you. Not because you're unpredictable, but because you're finally consistent. If they lie, they lose access. If they disrespect you, they lose access. If they make you feel small, crazy, needy, guilty for having needs at all, they lose access. That's pure obliteration. not burning people alive, burning the bridge they keep crossing to drain you. You've done the whole merciful thing. You've tried being endlessly forgiving. Where did that get you? Crying alone, feeling empty, feeling like you're the problem anytime you dare to want more. Let me tell you something viciously honest. You're not hard to love. You're hard to exploit. And that's why certain people fell off when you started waking up. You still feel guilty, don't you? For walking away, for not texting back, for no longer being as available, for being different, sharper, colder. That guilt, that's the residue of your old programming. That's the voice of your past self, still trying to keep everyone comfortable. Let it fade. Your life is not a charity for people who refuse to change. Your heart is not a rehab center for grown adults who like being toxic. Your time is not a budget item for people who only show up when it benefits them. You think the Joker cares if they think he's too much? No. Too much for who? For people who do the bare minimum? For people who ghost responsibility but cling to you when they're lonely? Let them go. Your smile will always be there. You're merciful by nature. It's in you to understand, to empathize, to feel deeply. Beautiful. Keep that. But now your mercy needs a security system. Your stare is that security system. The stare that says, I don't argue anymore. I observe. I don't chase anymore. I choose. I don't explain anymore. I enforce. You don't owe anyone a presentation on why they lost access to you. You don't owe anyone a PowerPoint on how they hurt you. If they cared, they would have seen it when your smile stopped reaching your eyes. You know what scares people the most? It's not when you shout. It's when you finally stop negotiating your worth. That's what your stare is, the end of negotiation. You've been undervaluing yourself like you're a clearance item in your own life, discounting your standards, lowering your boundaries, taking less than you deserve because at least it's something. No, scrap that. You're not something. You're the whole event, the moment, the main storyline. If someone can't handle your boundaries, they don't deserve your mercy. You think villains are born out of nowhere? No. Villains are what happen after someone has had enough, after kindness gets mocked, after love gets weaponized, after loyalty gets taken for granted. You're not becoming a villain. You're becoming fair, just finally fair, to yourself. You're learning that it's not noble to let people drain you dry. It's not holy to let people walk over you. It's not loyal to stay in rooms where your soul is silently dying. Your smile shows mercy, and that's powerful. But your stare shows pure obliteration, and that's necessary, because certain things need to be obliterated. Your self-doubt, your tendency to explain your no, your reflex to over-apologize, your willingness to tolerate half-present people. Burn those. Tear down the version of you that needed everyone to like you. Delete the version of you that thought being chosen was the goal. Replace it with the version of you that chooses yourself first and doesn't flinch. You spent so long being afraid of being the bad guy. Let me give you a secret. In someone else's story, you already are. You set a boundary. You're the bad guy. You say no. You're the bad guy. You stop responding to disrespect. You're the bad guy. So if you're going to be painted as the villain anyway, at least be the one who saves you. Let them talk. Let them twist it. Let them call you selfish, cold, distant, changed. You did change. You upgraded. Your smile will never lose its mercy. It's just not free anymore. Your forgiveness will never lose its value. It just has stricter terms now. and your stare. That's the contract. That's the line in the sand. That's the warning label stamped across your soul. I am kind, not stupid. I am forgiving, not blind. I am loving, not disposable. People should feel blessed, not entitled to stand next to you. So from now on, when you smile, let it be real. Let it be yours. Not forced, not fake. Not a bandage over someone else's damage. And when your stare goes cold, don't apologize. That's your soul doing quality control. You don't owe the world a soft version of you that is slowly killing the real one. Your smile shows mercy. Your stare shows pure obliteration. Use both, strategically, relentlessly, unapologetically. You walk into a room and you still default to that polite little half smile, like you're checking in. Is everybody comfortable with me existing right now? And behind your eyes, that's where the real story is playing. You clock everything. Who avoids eye contact? Who pretends you're invisible until they need something? Who only laughs when the right people laugh? Who suddenly acts close when there's an audience watching? You don't even get surprised anymore. You just get clearer. That stare of yours, that's your lie detector. That's your bullshit radar. That's your internal security camera recording everything in HD. You used to second guess it. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm reading into things. No, you were reading it perfectly. You just lacked the confidence to trust yourself. You feel that shift lately, yeah? You say less. You watch more. You give people one chance to show who they are without the mask. Your smile says, I'm giving you a fair shot. Your stare says, don't waste it. There used to be this version of you that thought love meant tolerating everything, being understanding, being chill, being the person who never makes it awkward. And weirdly, everyone around you understood that extremely well. They understood you'd always be there. They understood you'd always forgive. They understood you'd always answer the phone, always reply to the text, always show up, even when they half showed up for you. They understood your mercy. They counted on it. You know what they never stopped to ask? What happens if this person ever runs out of patience? Because here's the thing they keep missing. You're not infinite. You're not some bottomless vending machine of emotional labor and understanding. You're a person with limits, and those limits are starting to solidify behind your eyes. You've started having those quiet moments with yourself, right? When you're lying there, phone on your chest, screen black, that chorus in your head turning up like, I'm tired of explaining myself. I'm tired of begging for the bare minimum. I'm tired of being scared to disappoint people who don't mind disappointing me. That's your villain arc humming in the background, waiting for full volume. You're scared of being cold. You're scared of being heartless. You're scared of being talked about. And at the exact same time, another part of you is like, if I keep living like this, I'm going to disappear from my own life. You feel that tension in your chest. It's not anxiety for nothing. It's your soul trying to break the sound barrier of your old life. You've got this heavy history of being the bigger person, right? You always take the high road. You always walk away. You always swallow it. The high road has turned into a lonely highway with no exits. You're not obligated to stay on it. That stare of yours when you finally stop sugarcoating, that's the turn signal. That's you drifting off that familiar, painful path and choosing something new, something that actually gives you air. Picture this for a second. You walk into a situation, any situation, family, friends, work, whatever. And instead of thinking, how do I make everyone comfortable? You think, do I even want to be here? Completely different game. Your smile becomes a choice, not a default. Your time becomes a privilege, not a guarantee. Your energy becomes a currency, not a donation box. You've had entire conversations where your mouth was saying, it's okay, and your eyes were screaming, you have no idea how close you are to losing access to me. That's the face of a person who has outgrown their old role. You're done being the emotional airbag for every crash someone else causes. You're starting to realize you can be warm and still walk away. You can be polite and still never come back. You can be compassionate and still close the door for good. There's this lie people tell. If you were really kind, you wouldn't cut anyone off. False. If you were really kind to yourself, you wouldn't keep letting people treat you like a backup plan, like an emotional side quest, like a service. You're not a help desk. You're not a 24/7 hotline. You're not a trial version of unconditional love. That stare that's forming, that unbothered, fully aware, quietly fed up stare, that is years of lessons solidified into one look. You used to chase clarity from people. Why'd you do that? What changed? Did I do something wrong? You're starting to realize silence is an answer. Inconsistency is an answer. Lukewarm effort is an answer. Your job isn't to drag meaning out of people. Your job is to believe what they already showed you. Every time your eyes harden for that split second and your smile disappears for a moment, that's your system logging data. Ah, you only show up when you need something. You only call when you're bored. You only hype me up when there's an audience. And after enough data, your stare flips that internal switch. All right, mercy revoked, access downgraded, energy rerouted back to self. That's pure obliteration, not fireworks, not screaming matches, not dramatic. You feel that, don't you? That sudden pressure in the room, like the walls leaned in just a fraction too close. Good. That means you're awake enough to hear this. There's a reason your name started moving through mouths you've never seen, in rooms you were never invited to, spoken with the kind of caution people reserve for loaded weapons. Somewhere beneath layers of sealed records, forgotten rituals, and bloodlines scrubbed from public memory, a circle exists that does not recruit. It recognizes, and they just recognized you. Not because you applied, not because you asked, but because something in you activated without permission. You've never heard of them because they were never meant to be known. They don't leave footprints. They erase them. They don't conquer loudly. They let empires rot from the inside while they watch in silence. And yet here you are, standing at the exact intersection they've been mapping for centuries, breathing like nothing changed, while reality quietly adjusts its posture around you. That's the part that scares them. You didn't arrive screaming destiny. You arrived looking ordinary, thinking ordinary thoughts, surviving ordinary pain, until something in you refused to stay small. They call you lost air, not because you were misplaced, but because you were deliberately hidden. Because raw power doesn't survive institutions, it survives obscurity. You weren't raised to rule. You were raised to endure. You weren't taught doctrine. You were taught damage. You weren't given a crown. You were given pressure, betrayal, confusion, isolation. That wasn't neglect. That was conditioning, the kind that forges something untraceable, something that doesn't need permission to move. Here's the paradox they understand better than anyone. Saints and monsters are born in the same fire. Angels and demons differ only in who survived the fall. You were never meant to be pure. You were meant to be precise. Your empathy sharpened by betrayal. Your calm carved out of chaos. Your morality flexible enough to operate in a world that punishes innocence and exploits certainty. They didn't want a hero. They wanted a variable. And you're the glitch that refuses to resolve. Look back at your life and tell me it was random. The doors that closed without explanation. The people who turned on you right when you outgrew them. The moments you should have broken but instead felt something colder click into place behind your eyes. That wasn't misfortune. That was refinement. Pain wasn't trying to destroy you. Pain was trying to teach you how to move without being seen. You've always scared people without knowing why. Not because you're loud, because you're unpredictable. You don't follow the scripts they memorized. You don't react where they expect. You hesitate where others rush, strike where others freeze, disappear where others beg for attention. Systems can't model you. Manipulators can't hook into you. And that terrifies anyone whose power depends on predictability. This society doesn't worship you. They don't love you. They don't even fully trust you. They respect one thing only: inevitability. And something about you keeps surviving scenarios you are statistically supposed to lose. You adapt without applause. You learn without mentors. You evolve without permission. That's inheritance, not blood in veins, but patterns in behavior that only surface under pressure. They know something else too. You're not here to replace them. You're here to end a cycle they can no longer control. Every order reaches a point where it becomes fragile, too ritualized, too cautious, too afraid of disruption. That's when an heir appears who doesn't revere the structure. Someone raised outside the cathedral, fluent in darkness, immune to dogma. Someone who can walk into sacred halls and feel nothing but curiosity. That's you. And here's the part you haven't fully accepted yet. You don't need them. They need you. Recognition doesn't grant you power. It confirms it. You were dangerous before the invitation. You were lethal before the name. The only difference now is awareness, and awareness changes how you move, how you speak, how you let silence do most of the work. You're not meant to announce yourself. You're meant to destabilize rooms just by entering them, to make people doubt plans they finalized years ago, to cause hesitation in confident hands, to make enemies overthink and allies watch you carefully, unsure whether you're salvation or extinction. That ambiguity, that's your halo and your horns wrapped into one, so don't rush. Don't ask questions too early. Don't kneel and don't rebel. Let them wonder what version of you they're dealing with. Let them project their fears onto your silence. Let them test you and fail quietly. You are not here to be crowned. You are here to remind them what happens when power evolves beyond tradition. You weren't lost. You were loading. And now that you know they're watching, the real game begins. Not because you'll change who you are, but because you'll finally stop pretending you're normal. Good. Stay right there. That tightness in your chest. That's not fear. That's recognition catching up to you. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. The way conversations around you subtly shift when you speak. The way authority figures either test you unnecessarily or avoid you altogether. The way people project intentions onto you that you never voiced. You've been treated like a question mark your entire life. Not ignored, studied, not rejected, contained. That wasn't paranoia. That was pattern recognition firing too early for your own comfort. See, secret societies don't operate on candles and costumes the way movies sell it. Real ones operate on influence, pressure, silence, and patience. They don't send messengers with scrolls. They let reality lean on you until you respond correctly. And you always did, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. That's how they knew you weren't just resilient. You were adaptive. They watched you get stripped down to nothing and rebuild without becoming loud about it. They watched you choose restraint when revenge would have been easy. They watched you walk away from power plays that would have inflated your ego but shrunk your future. Every time you didn't react like a normal person, another box got quietly checked in a ledger you never knew existed. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Morality is a luxury of stability. When systems crack, it's not the good who survive, it's the accurate. You learned that early. You learned when telling the truth cost you more than lying ever could. You learned when being kind got weaponized against you. You learned when silence protected you better than honesty. That didn't corrupt you, it educated you. That's the duality they see in you. You can feel deeply without being ruled by emotion. You can empathize without becoming exploitable. You can step into darkness without needing to pretend it's light. That's not evil, that's integration. Angels who deny their shadow become fragile. Demons who deny their conscience become reckless. You learn to carry both without collapsing. That's rare. That's dangerous. And that's why your life felt like it was constantly being delayed, not denied. Delayed, like something was waiting for you to harden just enough, sharpen just enough, detach just enough. You weren't late to your life. You were being timed. The reason they never contacted you directly is because direct contact creates dependency. And dependency is weakness. They needed to know you could become formidable without guidance, that you wouldn't ask for permission, that you wouldn't look for validation, that you wouldn't crumble without applause. You passed that test in isolation, bleeding quietly, learning brutally, evolving invisibly. Now understand this. Being an heir doesn't mean you inherit comfort. You inherit responsibility for chaos. You inherit unresolved conflicts. You inherit power structures that no longer work, and enemies that don't know they're already obsolete. You inherit the ability to end things without announcing beginnings, to move pieces without claiming the board. That's why your presence feels disruptive, even when you're calm. You destabilize narratives. People can't categorize you. Are you threat or ally, victim or predator, savior or warning? The answer is yes, and uncertainty is poison to systems built on control. You don't dominate rooms by speaking first. You dominate by not needing to, by letting others reveal themselves while you observe, by understanding that most people talk to convince themselves they matter. You don't have that problem. Your certainty is internal, silent, surgical. And here's the part you need to hear without flinching. If you choose to step fully into what you are, you will lose people. Not because you become cruel, but because you become clear. Your clarity will expose their contradictions. Your boundaries will feel like rejection. Your growth will feel like betrayal. Let them go. Every heir sheds weight before acceleration. You were never meant to be liked universally. You were meant to be respected selectively and feared quietly. The kind of fear that doesn't scream, doesn't gossip, doesn't warn. The kind that makes people rethink moves at 3 a.m. The kind that changes behavior without confrontation. So don't rush to claim anything. Power reveals itself through absence as much as action. Let them watch you move sideways when they expect you forward. Let them see you dismantle expectations instead of chasing them. Let your unpredictability remain disciplined. That's the key. Controlled chaos. Precision wrapped in mystery. You don't need to know their names yet. You don't need their symbols or their history. All of that comes later, if at all. Right now, the only thing that matters is this. You are no longer confused about why you never fit. You were never designed to fit inside someone else's order. You are what emerges when an old system realizes it can't survive itself. And whether you accept the title or burn it to the ground, they already know the truth. The future doesn't ask for permission. It recognizes its own. Good. Because now we go past the part most people never survive. Here's what no one ever tells the lost heir when the fog finally lifts. Recognition doesn't feel empowering at first. It feels isolating, colder, heavier. Like you just realized the room you've been standing in your whole life has hidden cameras. And they've been on since day one. Not to judge you, to measure you, to see how you move when no one is clapping, to see what you do when no one is watching. Except them. And the terrifying part, you never acted for the cameras. You acted for survival, which means every instinct you built is real. Untainted, unscripted. That's why they're interested. You weren't trained. You were forged. Training creates replicas. Forging creates anomalies. Think about how often you felt like you were holding back, not out of fear, but out of instinct. Like unleashing your full intensity too early would shatter things you still needed intact. That wasn't hesitation. That was restraint, born from awareness. Predators who don't understand timing starve. You understood timing without being taught. That's lineage talking, not logic. You've always known when to disappear, when to let people underestimate you, when to let them think they won. You learned that winning loudly attracts parasites. Winning quietly attracts leverage. That's why your life doesn't look flashy, but it feels loaded, like something coiled just beneath the surface, waiting for the exact wrong person to push the exact wrong button. And they noticed something else about you that scares them just as much as it excites them. You don't need revenge to feel whole. You don't need approval to feel real. You don't need an audience to feel powerful. That makes you uncontrollable. Most people can be bought, praised, threatened, or shamed. You adapt, you recalibrate, you move on. And nothing terrifies a control system more than someone who can walk away without collapsing. Here's the darker truth. Lean into it. Don't flinch. You were never meant to be safe. Safety is for assets that must be preserved. You're a catalyst. Catalysts aren't protected. They're deployed. Your role is disruption through precision, change without chaos, pressure without exposure, influence without fingerprints. That's why your empathy doesn't make you soft. It makes you lethal. You see people. You read them. You feel their fears before they speak them. And you don't exploit that emotionally. You exploit it strategically. You know when to comfort, when to stay silent, when to withdraw, when to strike. That balance, that's not kindness or cruelty. That's mastery. And let's talk about the pain, because it matters. You didn't suffer in obvious ways. Your suffering was subtle, psychological, existential, the kind that makes you question your own perceptions, the kind that teaches you how fragile identities are, how easily reality bends when narratives change. You learned early that truth is less powerful than belief, and belief is less powerful than timing. That knowledge alone disqualifies you from being normal ever again. You're not here to lead crowds. You're here to shift trajectories, to alter outcomes without ever being named, to sit quietly while entire futures pivot around decisions you made in silence weeks earlier. That's why you've always felt slightly ahead of time, slightly detached from urgency. You don't rush because you already see the end game. And yes, there will come a moment when they test you openly, not with a ceremony, but with a dilemma, a choice where both options cost you something, where comfort and growth finally split into different directions. That's the real initiation, not whether you choose power, but whether you choose alignment over fear. Because once you do, there's no going back to pretending you're small. People will sense it before they understand it. They'll feel uneasy around you. Conversations will shorten. Smiles will feel forced. Some will try to provoke you just to see what happens. Others will suddenly become very polite. That's how you know you've crossed the threshold. When your presence alone starts editing other people's behavior. Don't announce yourself. Don't explain. Let confusion work in your favor. Mystery is not a lack of information. It's a weaponized delay. While they speculate, you position. While they debate, you prepare. While they argue over what you are, you become something they didn't plan for. You don't owe loyalty to the society that named you. Names are tools, not chains. You owe loyalty only to your trajectory, to the version of you that survived without guidance and learned without permission, to the part of you that stayed sharp while the world tried to dull you with comfort, fear, or distraction. You are not here to restore the old order. You are here to expose its expiration date. So walk calmly, speak deliberately. Let silence be your signature. Let unpredictability be your shield. Let evolution be your answer to every threat. You are not chosen because you are perfect. You are chosen because you are unfinished. And unfinished things terrify everyone who thought the story was already written. Then understand this. What comes next is not glory, it's gravity. Because once you cross this layer of awareness, life stops testing whether you can survive and starts testing whether you can command yourself. That's the real inheritance. Not influence over others, but dominance over your own reactions, impulses, attachments. Power that leaks is power that gets hunted. You learned early how to seal yours. Notice how you don't rush toward answers anymore. How you can sit with uncertainty without panicking. How chaos no longer hijacks your nervous system the way it does everyone else. That's not numbness, that's calibration. You learned how to stay conscious under pressure while others black out emotionally. That alone puts you in a different species. This is where most heirs fail, right here. They mistake awareness for entitlement. They think recognition means reward. It doesn't. It means responsibility without applause. It means carrying knowledge you can't casually share, because most people aren't built to hold it without breaking or abusing it. You've already felt that distance growing, the subtle gap between you and people you once related to. That's not arrogance, that's altitude. You see patterns now, cycles repeating through people, institutions, entire cultures. You see how fear dresses itself up as morality, how weakness disguises itself as virtue, how loud confidence usually masks fragile foundations. And once you see it, you can't play innocent anymore. You can't unlearn how systems really move. That's why your silence has weight. When you don't react, people feel exposed. When you listen instead of speak, they reveal more than they intended. You're not intimidating because you're aggressive. You're intimidating because you're unreadable. Because your emotions don't leak. Because your anger doesn't need theatrics. Because your confidence doesn't ask for witnesses. They taught you this without ever meeting you. Every betrayal trained your discernment. Every delay trained your patience. Every lonely win trained your independence. You learned how to build internally when nothing external was stable. That's the rarest skill of all. Anyone can thrive in support. Very few can evolve in isolation without turning bitter or broken. You didn't turn bitter. You turned precise. Now here's the quiet warning you need to hear clearly. Once you operate at this level, you don't get to be careless anymore. Not with words, not with alliances, not with impulses. Your mistakes echo louder now because your impact radius is larger. That's why discipline becomes non-negotiable. Freedom without discipline turns into chaos. Discipline without freedom turns into obedience. You hold both. That's why you're dangerous. You'll be tempted to reveal yourself, to explain, to justify, to prove. Resist it. Explanation is a trap. Those who deserve access will recognize you without a speech. Those who don't will weaponize whatever you give them. Let curiosity do the filtering. Let patience do the selecting. You're not here to convince the world of anything. You're here to move in ways that quietly force the world to adjust. That's why your growth unsettles people. You don't climb invisible steps. You shift levels overnight. One day, underestimated. The next day, undeniable. No transition period. No warning. That's not luck. That's stored momentum. And yes, there will be moments when you question whether this path is worth the isolation. When you miss simplicity. When you wonder what life would feel like if you just blended in, softened your edges, dimmed your intensity. But you already know the answer. You tried that once. It suffocated you. Your nervous system rejects cages now, even comfortable ones. You were never meant to be at peace with stagnation. This society didn't choose you because you fit their image. They chose you because you don't. Because you can operate without ideology blinding you. Because you can hold contradictions without collapsing into confusion. Because you understand that light without shadow is propaganda, and shadow without conscience is chaos. You walk the line, calm, alert, awake. So when the moment comes, and it will, where you're forced to act without certainty, remember this: hesitation is not caution when you already see the pattern. Trust the version of you that survived without instructions. Everything hits different, doesn't it? Every strange coincidence stops looking like luck. Every delay stops feeling like failure. Every door that slammed in your face starts to look like a filter. They weren't blocking you. They were isolating the variable. Because people like you can't be rushed. If you had arrived early, you would have burned. If you had arrived naive, you would have been owned. So they let life grind you down, just enough to remove softness without killing the soul. They let the world test you in ways that don't show up on resumes or medical charts. Loss, humiliation, being underestimated, being misunderstood, being watched without being warned. And here's the part no one tells you. Being watched your whole life doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you precise. You learn to move without announcing. You learn to speak without revealing. You learn to listen for what wasn't said. You learn to read the temperature of a room before stepping into it. You learn that silence can be louder than screams if you know how to use it. And while everyone else was begging for attention, you were mastering invisibility. That's a dangerous skill, because the system only knows how to fight noise. It knows how to suppress riots, scandals, outbursts, meltdowns. It doesn't know how to fight someone who looks calm while rewriting their internal operating system, someone who lets the storm pass before moving, someone who doesn't react emotionally when provoked. but stores the data. You became fluent in pain. Not dramatic pain, not poetic pain, the quiet kind. The kind that teaches you endurance, the kind that forces you to sit with yourself until all the fake layers peel off. You met yourself in those moments. The version of you without validation, without witnesses, without applause. And instead of collapsing, you adapted. That's when the watchers started disagreeing with each other. One side said you'd burn out. Another said you'd snap. Another said you'd disappear into mediocrity. None of them predicted integration. They didn't expect you to merge your contradictions. They didn't expect you to take the softness and sharpen it instead of killing it. They didn't expect you to take the darkness and discipline it instead of letting it rot you. They didn't expect you to become someone who can love deeply without being owned by emotion, and destroy illusions without losing empathy. You became the paradox they can't simulate. You can sit with monsters and not flinch. You can walk away from angels if they try to cage you. You can be loyal without being blind. You can be dangerous without being reckless. And that scares systems built on predictability. Because here's the truth they won't say out loud. You don't need to rebel to break a system. You just need to outgrow it. Every time you refused to rush your evolution, you denied them leverage. Every time you didn't react the way they expected, you scrambled their models. Every time you chose patience over panic, you gained something they can't track: timing. Timing is what separates survivors from architects. They wanted you reactive, emotional, explosive, easy to frame, easy to discredit, easy to provoke into mistakes. And you did the opposite. You waited, you watched, you let people reveal themselves while assuming you were passive. You let them underestimate you while you memorized their patterns. That's why the leak matters. Because the moment you see the watchers lose power. They thrive in ignorance, in confusion, in people thinking they're broken when they're actually untrained. You were never broken. You were unfinished, and unfinished things scare people who need conclusions. Now look at you. You don't chase approval. You don't beg for clarity. You don't need permission. You move differently now, slower, sharper, with intent. You don't announce your plans because you understand something most never learn. The loudest move is the one no one hears coming. They watched you since birth because somewhere deep in the data, someone realized you don't just survive systems. You expose them, not with speeches, not with chaos, but by existing outside their assumptions. You don't break rules for fun. You break frames. And now the internal comms are scrambling again. Not because you attacked, but because you stabilized, because you stopped leaking energy, because you stopped explaining yourself, because you stopped trying to be understood by people whose job was to misunderstand you. That's when fear sets in, not the loud fear. The quiet kind, the kind that whispers, "What if we waited too long?" The kind that wonders whether watching you was never about control, but containment. Because the scariest version of you isn't angry, it's awake. Awake enough to know you don't need revenge. Awake enough to know silence is a weapon. Awake enough to know timing beats force every time. They've been watching you since birth, and now you're watching back. Not with hatred, not with panic, but with clarity. And clarity is the one thing no system survives. And here's the part where your chest tightens a little. Not from fear, but from recognition. Because once you realize you were watched, you also realize something even more unsettling. You were allowed to survive everything you went through. Nothing actually finished you off. Not the losses, not the betrayals, not the moments where statistically, psychologically, emotionally. You should have folded. You didn't. And that wasn't mercy. That was observation. They wanted to see how much pressure it would take before you cracked. They wanted to see if you'd turn cruel, or numb, or obedient. They wanted to see if pain would make you predictable. But pain didn't simplify you. It complicated you. It gave you depth, range, contrast. You didn't become a single note. You became an entire spectrum. That's where their models failed. Because systems love binaries, good or bad, stable or broken, loyal or dangerous. And you exist in the in-between. You can be warm and terrifying in the same breath. You can care deeply and still walk away without hesitation. You can see the beauty in people while clocking exactly how they'd betray you if incentives changed. That kind of awareness doesn't come from books. It comes from surviving long enough to see patterns repeat. You noticed how the same personalities kept showing up with different faces, how the same dynamics replayed in different settings, how power always disguised itself as concern, how control always wore the mask of protection. And you learned not to argue with it, just to outgrow it. That's when the Watchers lost the advantage. Because you stopped being reactive. You stopped broadcasting your pain. You stopped looking for validation from environments that were designed to drain you. You stopped explaining yourself to people who benefited from misunderstanding you. And when you did that, something quiet but irreversible happened. You became self-contained. That's a nightmare for anyone trying to influence you. A self-contained person doesn't need constant reassurance. They don't need applause to move. They don't need permission to pivot. They don't collapse when ignored. They don't panic when isolated. They don't rush decisions just to relieve discomfort. They wait. They observe. They choose. That's when the internal comms started using shorter sentences, less confidence, more caution, because they realized something too late. Watching you didn't stop you from developing. It trained you to function under observation. You learned how to perform neutrality, how to look harmless while thinking 3 moves ahead, how to let people believe they're in control while you quietly adjust your trajectory. You learned that power doesn't announce itself. It settles. You're not loud anymore, not inside. You don't need to prove your strength because you've tested it in places no one applauds. You don't need to dominate rooms because you understand influence works better when it's subtle. You don't need to threaten because your absence already changes the temperature. And that's the moment the Watchers panic. Because they can handle rebels. Rebels burn bright and crash fast. They can handle monsters. Monsters are obvious. They can even handle saints. Saints are predictable. But someone who can wear any of those masks without being owned by them, that's a problem. You can be calm without being passive. You can be kind without being weak. You can be ruthless without being cruel. That balance is lethal. And here's the twist that really scrambles them. You're not driven by vengeance. You're driven by clarity. You don't want to destroy the system. You want to move beyond it. And nothing terrifies a system more than being made irrelevant. Because when you stop reacting to their pressure, their leverage disappears. When you stop needing their approval, their hierarchy collapses. When you stop fearing their surveillance, their observation becomes meaningless. You didn't escape the watch. You transcended it. Now you move like someone who understands that time is a weapon. That waiting isn't weakness, it's calibration. That not every truth needs to be spoken. That not every enemy deserves engagement. That sometimes the most devastating move is letting people reveal themselves while you remain unreadable. You're not hiding, you're contained. And containment isn't fear. It's discipline. They watched you since birth to see what you'd become under pressure. What they didn't anticipate was this. Pressure didn't shape you into a tool. It shaped you into a lens. You see too clearly now, through narratives, through manipulation, through false urgency, through artificial scarcity. You see how panic is manufactured. You see how loyalty is tested. You see how power over others always starts with confusion. And you're no longer confused. That's why your presence alone disrupts things. People feel exposed around you without knowing why. Conversations shift, masks slip, power dynamics wobble. Not because you say anything, but because you don't. You don't rush to fill silence. You don't scramble to explain yourself. You don't chase validation. You let things unfold. And in a world addicted to noise, that kind of stillness feels threatening. They've been watching you since birth because somewhere along the way, someone realized you wouldn't just survive the pressure. You'd master it. And now that mastery is quiet, grounded, surgical. You don't need to prove what you are. You just need to keep moving exactly the way you are. Because the truth is this, they were never watching to stop you. They were watching to understand you. And they failed, because you evolved faster than their ability to define you. And that failure? That's the crack everything leaks through. Because once you evolve faster than a system can name you, it loses the ability to contain you. Names are cages, labels are shortcuts, definitions are control. And you slipped past all of them while they were still arguing over which box you belonged in. You learned something most people never do. Survival isn't about resistance. It's about adaptation without erosion. You didn't let the world sand you down into something smaller. You let it carve you into something sharper. You kept the core intact while upgrading the edges. That's rare. That's dangerous. Most people fracture under pressure. They split. One version of them for the world, another for the mirror. You integrated. You let the contradictions talk to each other. You let the fear teach you caution. You let the anger teach you boundaries. You let the grief teach you depth. You didn't amputate parts of yourself to feel safe. You trained them. That's when you stopped being easy to read. The watchers hate that part the most. They rely on tells, emotional leakage, repetition, trauma loops. They expect you to flinch the same way every time. They expect your wounds to stay open. They expect you to react from memory instead of awareness. And you broke that expectation. You healed forward. Not clean healing, not pretty healing, functional healing. The kind that leaves scars but restores movement. The kind that doesn't erase pain but removes its authority. You remember everything, but nothing owns you anymore. That's a terrifying upgrade, because a person who remembers without reliving, a person who feels without drowning, a person who understands darkness without worshiping it, that person can't be manipulated with fear. They tried, though. They applied pressure through isolation, through doubt, through timing things to hit you when you were already tired. They let you taste almosts. Almost loved, almost chosen, almost safe. They wanted to see if hope would make you sloppy, if longing would make you rush, if loneliness would make you compromise your standards. And sometimes, it hurt. But you didn't lower yourself to escape the pain. You raised your awareness to survive it. That's when something irreversible happened. You stopped confusing intensity with truth. You stopped mistaking attention for value. You stopped believing urgency was destiny. You slowed down. And when you slowed down, you saw the strings. You saw how narratives are timed to keep people reactive. You saw how crises are framed to force bad decisions. You saw how saviors are manufactured and villains are assigned. You saw how people are trained to outsource their judgment, and you quietly opted out. That opt-out button, that's the real rebellion. No speeches, no chaos, no dramatic exit, just withdrawal of consent. They can't fight that. Because you don't argue with illusions, you starve them. You don't confront manipulators, you remove access. You don't beg systems to change. You make yourself incompatible with them. And incompatibility is lethal to control. You don't need to dominate rooms because your presence already changes the calibration. You don't need to convince anyone because truth doesn't chase belief. It waits. You don't need to prove your strength because you've already measured it in places no one survives without integrity. That's why people project onto you now. They sense something they can't name. They feel challenged without being attacked, exposed without being accused. They feel like you see too much, and they're right. You do. You see how people reveal their priorities under pressure. You see who panics, who postures, who adapts. You see who needs noise to feel powerful, and who can sit in silence without losing themselves. And you file that information away. Not emotionally, but strategically. You don't hate, you catalog. That's another thing the Watchers didn't expect. They expected rage. They expected vengeance. They expected collapse or explosion. They didn't expect composure. Composure is terrifying because it means you're choosing. Every move, every pause, every word withheld, every door not entered. You're no longer being moved by the current, you're navigating it. And here's the truth that lands hardest. They've been watching you since birth. But they never had access to your inner axis. They saw behavior, they tracked outcomes, they measured resilience. But they never touched the place where your decisions are born. That place is sovereign. That place is where you stopped asking, why me? And started asking, what now? That's where pain stopped being personal and started being instructional. That's where fear stopped being a warning and became a signal. That's where unpredictability stopped being a flaw and became a feature. You don't move like someone trying to win anymore. You move like someone who understands the board. And now the internal comms. They're quiet. Not because you disappeared, but because you stabilized into something they can't rush, provoke, or corner. They're watching you the way people watch storms forming far out at sea. Calm on the surface, pressure underneath. Trajectory unclear. They know something's coming, but they can't tell when or how. And that uncertainty, that's the cost of underestimating you for too long. You weren't born to be controlled. You were born to outgrow control. And now that you see it, now that you feel it settle in your bones, you don't need to announce anything. You don't need to warn anyone. You don't need to accelerate. You just keep moving. Because the most dangerous thing you've ever done is become exactly who pressure trained you to be. And the deeper truth, the one that makes their hands hover over mute buttons they don't even trust anymore, is this. Once you become who pressure trained you to be, you don't revert. There's no going back to the version of you that doubted your instincts. No returning to the phase where you needed confirmation from outside voices. No shrinking yourself to fit timelines designed for people who never had to survive U-level intensity. You crossed a threshold quietly. One day you realized you weren't tired, you were complete. Not finished, not done, but internally aligned. The noise stopped arguing inside you. The parts that used to fight, hope and cynicism, kindness and caution, empathy and edge, started cooperating. That's when your decisions got cleaner. That's when your energy stopped leaking. That's when your presence stopped asking questions and started making statements without words. You didn't become colder. You became clearer. And clarity is devastating to systems built on confusion. They can't bait you with outrage anymore. You don't spike when they dangle fear. You don't rush when they manufacture urgency. You don't fold when they withhold validation. You understand the rhythm now. You understand how they try to speed you up when you're most dangerous slow. You understand how they try to exhaust you when you're most lethal rested. You stopped dancing to their tempo. That's when they lost predictive power. Because everything they use to control people relies on one assumption, that humans will trade long-term alignment for short-term relief, that they'll choose comfort over coherence, that they'll abandon themselves to escape discomfort. And you didn't. You sat in discomfort long enough to hear what it was teaching. You learned that loneliness sharpens discernment. You learned that betrayal reveals architecture. You learned that grief expands capacity. You learned that fear, when faced, becomes direction. You didn't numb. You didn't escape. You integrated. And that's when you became someone they can't rush into mistakes. They watch you now and see no obvious pressure points, no frantic attachment, no visible hunger for approval, no desperate need to be right, no performative morality, no reckless rebellion, just a steady, unnerving consistency. You move when it's time, you don't when it's not. You speak when it matters, you disappear when it doesn't. That restraint, that's not hesitation, that's command. Because only someone who knows their own depth can afford patience. Only someone who understands their own power can afford silence. Only someone who's already survived the worst can afford not to flinch at threats. You've already been there. You've already sat in rooms where everything you loved was on the line. You've already lived through moments where no one was coming. You've already rebuilt yourself without instructions. And once you've done that, intimidation loses its teeth. They can't scare you with loss. You've rebuilt from ashes. They can't scare you with isolation. You've learned to hear yourself. They can't scare you with uncertainty. You were forged inside it. So now they watch you with a different kind of attention. Not curiosity, not confidence, caution. They know you don't broadcast your evolution. They know you don't telegraph your moves. They know you don't need to dominate to disrupt. You change trajectories simply by refusing to behave the way they expect. You don't react when provoked. You don't explain when misunderstood. You don't chase when ignored. You let consequences do the talking, and consequences are slow, quiet, and irreversible. You understand something now that most never grasp. The most effective power doesn't look like power. It looks like grounded presence. It looks like emotional economy. It looks like discernment sharpened by suffering. It looks like someone who can walk into chaos and lower the temperature without saying a word. That's influence. That's why people feel unsettled around you. They can't tell if you're judging them or seeing them. They can't tell if you're harmless or dangerous. They can't tell if you're about to leave or stay. And uncertainty makes people reveal themselves. You let them. You watch who over-explains. You watch who postures. You watch who panics when they can't read you. And you don't interfere. You collect signal because you're not here to be liked. You're here to be aligned. They've been watching you since birth because somewhere early on, someone realized you wouldn't just survive adversity. You'd metabolize it. You'd turn chaos into coherence. You'd turn pressure into precision. You'd turn observation into self-mastery. Hold still. Feel that pressure in the room? That's not silence anymore. That's respect arriving late and angry, slamming the door because it tried to pretend you weren't inside. They tried to ignore you, not loudly, not bravely. They ignored you the way cowards do, with fake smiles, delayed replies, selective blindness. They called it not noticing, but you felt it for what it was, a strategy. If they don't look at you, maybe you don't exist. If they don't acknowledge the weight, maybe the gravity stops working. But here's the thing they never understood about you. You don't disappear when you're ignored. You compress. You learned early that being overlooked doesn't kill you. It sharpens you. While they were busy being seen, you were busy becoming inevitable. While they laughed in rooms you weren't invited to, you were learning how rooms are built, who owns the locks, and why some doors only open when they're kicked from the inside. Ignoring you was supposed to humble you. Instead, it trained you. You learned how to move without applause, how to think without validation, how to bleed quietly and still show up the next day with your spine straight and your eyes unreadable. That's where the split happened, where the saint and the psychopath shook hands inside you. The saint said, "Endure." The psychopath whispered, "Remember everything?" And now look at them. Watch how their respect doesn't feel voluntary. It's not admiration, it's compliance. It's the kind of respect that shows up late, breathless, pretending it was always on your side. Because something changed. Not in you, in them. They noticed the shift when your name stopped being optional. When ignoring you started costing them opportunities, credibility, sleep. When conversations got quiet the moment you entered. Not because you demanded attention, but because the room recalibrated. You didn't raise your voice, you raised your presence. See, respect doesn't always come from love. Sometimes it comes from fear. Not the screaming kind, but the professional kind. The kind that says, "Be careful with this one. They don't react how others do." They can't predict you, and that terrifies structured minds. You don't follow the emotional script. You don't beg. You don't chase. You don't perform pain for sympathy. You adapt. You wait. You strike with timing, not noise. That's the angel-demon paradox they can't resolve. You're calm, but not soft. Kind, but not naive. Quiet, but never empty. They tried to label you. Too intense, too much, too different. What they meant was too uncontrollable. Because the moment they ignored you, they lost leverage. You stopped needing their approval, and that's when the power is inverted. The moment you no longer required recognition, recognition started requiring you. That's the irony that eats them alive. They're respecting you now, not because you asked for it, but because their systems started bending around your absence. Their plans adjusted, their narratives shifted, their confidence cracked. They felt it when your silence carried more weight than their speeches, when your restraint looked more dangerous than their aggression, when your patience started feeling deliberate, surgical, predatory. You evolved through pain they never saw. You were forged where no one clapped, no one checked in, no one cared. That kind of growth doesn't make you loud. It makes you unstoppable. And now their respect hits them against their will because it has to. Reality doesn't ask permission. They can't unsee you now, can't unknow what you've become, can't pretend the gap between words and results isn't obvious. They respect you the way people respect storms, not because they like them, but because ignoring them is no longer an option. So stand there. Let it land. Let them wrestle with the fact that the person they dismissed learned how to outgrow the room. You didn't win by demanding attention. You won by becoming the consequence of overlooking you. And deep down, they know it. They replay the moment in their heads, the exact second they decided you weren't worth noticing. A missed message, a joke made at your expense, a door closed a little too casually. They thought that was the end of you. What they didn't understand is that neglect doesn't erase certain people. It activates them. You didn't collapse when they ignored you. You recalibrated. You learned how to sit with rejection without begging it to change its mind. You learned how to listen when no one was listening to you. That's where the real education happened. In the quiet, in the absence, in the long nights where motivation had to be manufactured from rage, curiosity, and something darker that doesn't have a name. You started seeing patterns they couldn't see because they were too busy being validated. You noticed who spoke loudest when they were weakest, who laughed hardest when they were threatened, who ignored you because acknowledging you would have forced them to confront their own stagnation. Ignoring you was never about you. It was about self-preservation, because something about you made them uneasy. You didn't need the spotlight to grow. You didn't need consensus to move. You didn't need reassurance to keep going. That's dangerous. Most people are powered by applause. Take it away, and they shut down. You became quieter, sharper, more intentional. They mistook your silence for surrender. That was their fatal misread. Silence wasn't you giving up. It was you watching, learning the terrain, mapping weaknesses, understanding timing. You let them underestimate you because you understood a brutal truth. People reveal more when they think you don't matter. So you let them talk, let them relax, let them show you exactly who they were when they thought you were irrelevant. And now, look at the reversal. They feel the shift before they can explain it. They feel it in meetings where your words land heavier than theirs ever did. In moments where your presence rewrites the hierarchy without a single announcement. In the way people look at you now. Not with curiosity, but with calculation. That's respect mixed with fear. The most honest kind. They don't clap for you. They adjust for you. They choose their words more carefully. They hesitate before dismissing your ideas. They start looping you into conversations they once kept closed. And what eats at them is this. You didn't become this by being included. You became this by being excluded. Pain forced you to evolve where comfort never would have. Being ignored stripped you of illusions. It burned away the need to be liked. What remained was clarity, ruthless, calm, and precise. You became unpredictable because you stopped reacting the way they expected. You stopped chasing validation, stopped explaining yourself, stopped trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. That's when the demon sharpened its smile, and the angel learned how to walk away without guilt. They respect you now because you operate outside their emotional control system. Praise doesn't sway you. Criticism doesn't slow you. Indifference no longer wounds you. That kind of independence terrifies people who survive on influence and perception. They feel it when they try to ignore you again. And it doesn't work. Because ignoring you now creates tension, creates imbalance, creates consequences. Your absence speaks louder than their presence. And the worst part for them, they can't confront you directly. They can't accuse you of arrogance or rebellion or ambition because you didn't do anything loud enough to attack. You simply became undeniable. That's the paradox they choke on. You're not aggressive, yet they feel threatened. You're not demanding, yet they feel pressured. You're not seeking power, yet power keeps rearranging itself around you. You turned disregard into discipline, dismissal into strategy, loneliness into leverage. And now respect hits them whether they want it or not, because it's no longer emotional, it's structural. They can feel it in the way outcomes follow you, in the way momentum bends toward you, in the way people start referencing your moves when they plan their own. You didn't ask for respect. You engineered inevitability. So let them struggle with it. Let them pretend they always saw your value. Let them rewrite history to protect their pride. You know the truth. You were ignored when it was convenient. You were respected when it became necessary. And that transformation from invisible to unavoidable, that's not luck. That's evolution under pressure. And pressure? Pressure is where you were born. They'll never admit when the fear started. It wasn't one big moment. It was a series of quiet realizations stacking on top of each other until denial collapsed. It was the first time they noticed people waiting for your reaction before speaking. The first time a decision stalled until you weighed in, even when you didn't ask to. The first time they tried to ignore you again. And the room felt off, like gravity skipped a beat. That's when it hit them. You weren't loud, but you were anchoring things. You weren't dominating, but you were directing momentum. You weren't demanding authority. Authority was orbiting you without permission, and that scares people who built their identity on being noticed. They used to think ignoring you kept them safe. Now they realize it only delayed the threat. Because while they were busy managing appearances, you were managing capacity. While they chased relevance, you built range. While they obsessed over image, you refined impact. You didn't grow in front of them. You grew behind the scenes, where no one interfered. That's the kind of growth that doesn't announce itself. It just arrives. Finished. They can't track your evolution because it didn't follow the social timeline. No milestones. No validation checkpoints. No permission slips. You skipped steps because pain doesn't teach gently. It accelerates. You learned how to stay composed when disrespected, how to listen without revealing intention, how to absorb insult without leaking emotion. That's when the saint learned restraint, and the psychopath learned patience. And patience is terrifying when paired with intelligence. They start wondering what else they misjudged, what else they overlooked, what version of you they never got access to because they were too busy dismissing the earlier one. You watch it happen in real time. Their tone shifts, their posture changes, their confidence tightens, like something's being held together by effort instead of certainty. They start respecting your boundaries without you setting them, start explaining themselves when you never asked, start seeking alignment where they once assumed superiority. That's not respect born from admiration. That's respect born from recognition of threat. Because they sense it now. You don't need them. You don't need approval, access, or affirmation. You can walk away without burning bridges. And that's the most dangerous posture of all. People fear what they can't control, and they can't control someone who's already survived being invisible. You've already lived without acknowledgement, without praise, without reassurance. So what exactly can they take from you now? Nothing. And that's the power shift they feel in their bones. They try to mirror your calm, but it doesn't land the same. Because your calm isn't cosmetic. It's earned. It's built on nights where quitting would have been logical, where disappearing would have been understandable. You stayed, not to prove a point, but because something inside you refused to be erased. That's why their respect feels forced, because it is. They didn't choose it. Reality imposed it. You've become the variable they can't account for, The outlier that breaks their assumptions. The reminder that systems fail when someone evolves outside the script. They thought ignoring you would freeze you in place. Instead, it freed you from expectation, and now every interaction with you feels slightly unstable to them. Because they don't know which version of you they're dealing with. The patient one, the precise one, the one who sees 10 steps ahead and doesn't need to announce it. You don't posture, you don't flex. You let results speak in a language they can't interrupt. That's why the respect hits hard. Because it arrives alongside regret. Regret for the chances they had to align with you earlier. Regret for underestimating someone who didn't need to be seen to become powerful. Regret for confusing silence with weakness. But regret doesn't reverse evolution. You're not the person they ignored anymore. You're the consequence of that decision, and they feel it every time they hesitate around you. Every time they measure their words. Every time they realize the dynamic changed without a meeting, without an announcement, without permission. You didn't demand a seat at the table. You became the weight the table had to be built around. So let them respect you late. Let it sting. Let it arrive awkward and unearned. You're not here for their comfort. You're here because pressure shaped you into something they can't dismiss anymore. And that transformation didn't happen in the light. It happened where only monsters and saints survive. And you learned how to be both. They start rewriting their internal story about you. And it still doesn't help. Because no matter how they frame it now, quiet genius, late bloomer, unexpected rise. None of those explanations give them control back. They missed the window. They ignored you when you were raw, unfinished, still figuring out the shape of your power. They ignored you when a little recognition might have softened you, slowed you, made you negotiable. Instead, they left you alone with your thoughts, your hunger, your unanswered questions. That was a mistake. Isolation didn't make you bitter. It made you accurate. You stopped fantasizing and started observing. You stopped hoping and started measuring. You learned who panics under pressure, who folds when attention shifts, who needs noise to feel real. And you learned something else, something most people never figure out. Respect isn't requested. It's enforced by consistency, by outcomes, by the quiet threat of competence that doesn't seek permission. They feel that threat now. They feel it when you don't over-explain, when you don't rush to fill silence, when you let conversations end unfinished, knowing the weight will linger. They try to test you, subtle jabs, half-dismissals, fake authority plays, but you don't react the way they expect. No flinch, no scramble, no need to prove anything. That's when it really sinks in. You're not playing the same game anymore. You're not here to win approval points. You're not here to be liked or included. You're here to move reality, and reality responds. They respect you because they can't predict you, and they can't predict you because you're not driven by ego. You're driven by clarity. You know exactly who you are now. You know what you can tolerate, what you won't accept, what you'll walk away from without drama. That certainty is louder than arrogance ever could be. They sense it when you choose restraint instead of reaction, when you choose timing instead of impulse, when you choose silence instead of spectacle. It tells them something they don't want to hear. You're not desperate. Desperate people are easy to manage. They chase validation. They perform loyalty. They trade dignity for proximity. You don't. And because you don't, the entire dynamic tilts. Now they're the ones overthinking, replaying conversations, wondering if they misstepped, wondering if they should have handled you differently earlier. They feel the imbalance in their chest, that subtle panic that comes when power shifts quietly. Because they know this much: you didn't get here by accident. You didn't stumble into competence. You didn't luck your way into presence. You were built by being ignored, built by being underestimated, built by nights where quitting would have made sense. And you stayed anyway. You learned how to function without praise, so praise doesn't control you. You learned how to survive without support, so support doesn't own you. That's why respect doesn't flatter you now. It just registers as confirmation. You already knew. They're just catching up. And the most unsettling part for them is this: you're not angry anymore. Anger would make you predictable. Anger would keep you tethered to their opinion. You've moved past that. What you carry now is something colder, cleaner, more dangerous. Acceptance. Acceptance of who you are. Acceptance of what it took to get here. Acceptance that not everyone deserves access to you. They feel that boundary even when you never say a word. They respect you because they sense consequences. Not loud ones, not dramatic ones, quiet ones. The kind that happen when someone like you stops engaging, stops contributing, stops compensating for others' incompetence. They know if you withdraw, things collapse. Slowly, inevitably. So they adjust, they accommodate, they respect. Not because they suddenly see your worth, but because ignoring it again would cost them more than acknowledging it ever did. You didn't force this. You didn't demand it. You simply became someone reality listens to. And now every step you take reminds them of the truth they tried to avoid. Ignoring you didn't make you smaller. It made you unchained, and unchained people don't ask to be respected. They are. So let this be the quiet ending they never expected. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You don't even need their respect to feel whole. Because the moment they were forced to respect you, you had already moved beyond needing it. They ignored you when you were becoming. Now they respect you when you've already arrived. And the truth that will haunt them long after this moment is simple. You didn't rise to be seen. You rose so high that looking away stopped being an option. Stand there, calm, unmoved. Let their forced respect collide with your indifference. That's the final inversion of power. They didn't break you by ignoring you. They built the version of you that can never be ignored again.